Hey everybody, this is TJR.
This is Superfan.
And finally, it's episode 10. The last episode. Yes. Maybe. We'll talk about that in a moment. But episode 10, which sadly is more disappointing than I had anticipated. I kind of knew. I mean, I kind of expected that we probably wouldn't have Led Zeppelin on this. But I kind of thought, well, maybe it'll be there. But it's not.
Nope.
And I understand that's why they weren't on the Live Aid DVD release, because they were not happy with their performance. They were upset with how that went down. But what I wasn't expecting was for Crosby, Stills, Nash Young to be cut. Wasn't expecting that at all. Because we got Crosby, Stills, and Nash earlier. We got Neil Young earlier. Why not Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young? It has to be a rights thing. I still don't understand why that was cut. But I do want to do a video talking about Led Zeppelin, the night of Live Aid, what happened. You know, I did save it to a...
the cluster beep that it was?
Yes, I did save it, you know, so that because I had a feeling at some point I'd want to talk about this. I've been wanting to talk about it for a while.
Well, and another thing we can do on our own is, it seems like all the performances are out there. If you guys are interested, we can go back, find those performances,
yeah,
and do commentary on it.
Yeah. Yeah. I am just, now that we're at the end of this, I'm just, now looking back, I'm just surprised at how much was cut out. I would have just thought that Live Aid, their channel, would have tried to preserve everything. Unless, of course, there was a rights issue. That would be the main thing that would keep them from doing it.
But, I mean, I think we're lucky to have this.
We are lucky to have it, yeah. But if the other performances are out there, we definitely want to find them. At any rate, though, so we begin with Duran Duran. And we kind of begin suddenly. It's jarring because the last performance was Phil Collins on the last episode, which led right into him jumping on stage with Led Zeppelin with Tony Thompson on drums.
Yeah.
It's jarring because it's still daylight at that point, and now suddenly it's night. And that's because two acts have already gone by that we didn't get to see. Duran Duran, they cut out A View to a Kill.
Yes.
Which was a single they had, probably their most recent single at the time.
That would have been their most recent single. Mm-hmm. That would have been from
the James Bond movie.
James Bond movie.
Yeah, yeah.
Of the same title.
Yeah. And then, so we jump right into Union of the Snake, followed by Save a Prayer, a song that I always liked by them. Even back then I liked that song. And The Reflex. And of note is the fact that this is the first time the band has played together since the two offshoot the two offshoot bands, Power Station, who did play earlier, and Arcadia.
Arcadia, who never really played live.
Yeah, I can understand why, because Arcadia was such an amalgamation of so many different musicians. It wasn't just the other three members of Duran Duran. There was a huge host of other musicians that collaborated on that project. Probably a very hard and difficult thing to try to launch live.
Yeah.
Especially for something like this, whereas Power Station was actually, you know, a much more contained unit that they could.
Well, I think they always intended on touring live.
Yeah, and you're right. They did tour live. This just without Robert Palmer, which we talked about in the last episode. It was the first time they had played together, and it would be the last time they would play with Andy Taylor on stage until a reunion many years later.
Yeah.
Many years later.
A few years ago, yeah.
Yeah. Andy Taylor, you know, what I read was that they were, you know, all going to get together and record the next album. They kept asking him to come in to record his guitar parts, and he kept saying, yeah, I'll be there, yeah, I'll be there. And he kept blowing them off until finally he just was out of the band.
Yeah.
And that was basically it. And then he did his solo album, which was a good album. It didn't do well, I guess, but it was a good album. I liked it. And I liked his work in Power Station. After Power Station, he started kind of you started seeing him making little guest star appearances with other artists, doing guitar. Yeah. And sometimes appearing in their music videos. I remember like he did a guitar solo on a Belinda Carlisle solo single. And he was there in the video playing the guitar solo. But yeah, he was just, he began doing that. You began to see him in things. But anyways, so Duran Duran, it was a good performance.
Yeah. Very
really
good.
good performance. And I remember when I watched that performance, I was talking, a friend there was with me, and I said, I watched how he was performing on guitar, and I thought, yeah, I kind of think that after Power Station, he's never going to be happy being with Duran Duran again. And I guess I was right.
Yeah.
Because he seemed so buried in Duran Duran.
He enjoyed performing with them in the performance part.
Yeah.
But he just wasn't allowed to be up front. And
He just seemed like he was buried all the time. And I noticed that again recently, because we've talked about it. We listened to Duran Duran's second album, and I remember I said, his guitar is there, but it's so buried. It almost sounds like keyboards, like is what it almost sounds like. And but I noticed a while back, I found you had an old vinyl copy, a UK copy of Duran Duran's first album, Planet Earth, which, no, that's not the name of the album. It's just called Duran Duran. The song
It's
Planet
just
Earth
called
is
Duran
on that
Duran,
album,
yeah.
but that's not what the album's called. But I was listening to this UK version and noticing that the guitars were more pronounced in that version
yeah.
from the US version. And so, yeah, it's an interesting thing. But yeah, and part of the reason why Power Station formed was because Andy Taylor had been talking to bassist John Taylor that he was thinking about leaving the band because he felt like he was just kind of being ignored and underused. And that's kind of why John Taylor said, well, let's just do this little side project together and you can, do guitar solos and kind of
Yeah.
get some of that out of your system. But I think it kind of led to him just saying, I don't ever want to go back now.
Yeah, I think John Taylor was the peacekeeper
Yeah, I guess so.
in that group.
At least he tried to be, yeah. But anyways, though, but yeah, good performance by them. This is followed by Patti LaBelle. Some of her songs were cut out. A few were not. She does a cover of Imagine, which I liked a lot. I don't think you were as into it. She did a cover of Over the Rainbow. And
I think I went and made dinner during Patti LaBelle when I was watching originally.
okay. I don't remember her performance from back then, but then, like I said, it's been a long time.
Yeah.
And coming up next, we have Hall & Oates.
So this, to me, was this was the most surprising performance for me of the day.
Uh-huh. And explain why that is.
I wasn't that into Hall & Oates. It wasn't. I didn't listen to Top 40.
Uh-huh.
I listened to the more alternative side of things.
Yeah.
But just the way this was done.
Yeah. And we should
was
talk.
So classy.
We should talk a little bit about what happened then versus what we just saw.
Yeah.
Because what originally happened is Hall & Oates, they were introduced, they came out, they did two of their hits.
Yeah.
They did Out of Touch, they did Maneater. Then they brought out Eddie Kendricks from The Temptations. They did Get Ready. They brought out David Ruffin from The Temptations, and they did Ain't Too Proud to Beg. Then they did The Way You Do the Things You Do, and they did My Girl.
But I don't think we saw The Way You Do the Things
They did
You
no
Do.
that now the
That
way it
got
was
cut.
yeah, and let me and now the way it was just presented was we saw them with Eddie Kendricks doing Get Ready. We saw them do Ain't Too Proud to Beg, and then My Girl, and then they took the clip of them playing Maneater from earlier and put it at the end.
Yeah.
So they edited this performance. They moved it around.
I think they probably felt like it made more sense to finish with the artist hit song.
Well,
which
that's not what happened. They should have just started with Maneater. If they're going to cut out of Touch, then start with Maneater, then do the other songs. But let's not get too far removed from what you were talking about, which is seeing this, the impact it made on you. Because I want you to talk about this.
Well, the Temptations, I believe, as far as I know, they're a Philadelphia band. Hall & Oates is out of Philadelphia. So this was kind of a homecoming. Mm-hmm. But the fact that they literally handed the stage over to the Temptations.
Yeah, because they did two tracks. They could have just done their hits. Hall & Oates could have done 4 or 5 of their hits, and everybody would have been happy.
And they could have sang it all together, but no. Hall & Oates went back and sang backing vocals.
Exactly. They became, they became the backup singers for Eddie Kendricks and David Ruffin. When each one of them came and did a lead vocal, they were the backup singers. I mean, they literally just, this could have been all about them. This was the 80s. This was the me decade.
Yeah.
They could have made it all about themselves. Instead, they made it about their influences. They made it about their heroes, their musical heroes, is what they made it about. And they brought up these two members of the Temptations who were both lead singers in the Temptations and highlighted them. And that's, like you said, that I know it. I remember you talked about this while we were watching, that it had a strong impact on you back then, that they were this generous with their moment in the sun.
Yeah, it's completely unexpected.
They instead chose to share it with their musical heroes. And yeah, you're right. It was a really cool thing.
Anytime that's completely unexpected.
Yeah. And and I agree with you. And when you first told me about that, that's when my opinion of Hall & Oates began to change too. Because this isn't the first time you've talked about it. You had mentioned it to me years ago, and that began to change my impression of Hall & Oates as well. Because I wasn't really paying much attention to them back then either. I heard their songs on the radio, and that was about
they're
it.
Fine.
But yeah, it began to change my impression of them as well. It was a great performance, lots of energy.
Lots and lots.
Yeah. And
they were having a really good time.
That's the main thing. Everybody was having time. G.E. Smith was on guitar with them. Probably best known as having at one time been the band leader for Saturday Night Live. I don't think he was at this point. Not at this point, but he would later become the band leader for Saturday Night Live. He would later take over Paul Schaefer's position.
Yeah.
Really strong performance. Everybody's having just a really good time. Great party atmosphere going on.
The audience loved it.
Yeah, audience loved it. Yeah, wonderful. So this brings us now to Mick Jagger with Tina Turner. This is, of course, during the Mick Jagger solo artist thing period. This is probably around the same time.
Yeah, in the 80s.
Yeah. He starts off, and they cut out the first song of this set here called "Lonely at the Top." This takes us to "Just Another Night," which is one of the solo songs off of his first solo album that I never cared for. I never cared for this song. Wasn't
your thing.
Yeah. I don't think it was your thing either, to be honest. But we both listened to Keith Richards' biography, his self-penned biography, and he talks about this moment, how there were people whispering in Mick's ear saying, you're the Stones, you need to be solo, that type of thing. And somehow, and this is, of course, Keith Richards' perspective saying, I think, Mick believed it, and, but anyways, though. So this was during his solo period. Like I said, I had zero interest in his solo work. Still pretty much have zero interest in it. Keith Richards' response, his solo stuff that came in response, his album, his first album that he did with the Expensive Winos was fantastic, though, in my opinion. But that's another thing. So they do Just Another Night. Then they do the Stones song "Miss You," and we should point out that Mick's band is basically Hall & Oates.
Yeah,
and their band.
Hall & Oates and their band.
Band. Not to mention that we've also got the two lead singers of the Temptations there too as well.
And I think there were a couple extra musicians
there
up there.
There were some extra musicians. There was another guitarist there who was part of Mick's solo touring band.
Yeah.
And Keith Richards would comment how that guitarist would be done up to look like Keith Richards, with similar outfits and hairstyle and clothing and all of that he was.
Okay.
He was done. He was oftentimes, Keith Richards talked about that in his book, how the guitarist that was part of the touring band would be basically made up to look like Keith Richards, to evoke him, basically. I'm sure that particular guitarist, I don't know who his name was, but I'm sure he hated that.
Probably.
I'm sure he probably hated that, but he probably needed a paycheck. Then
we see the rest of the Rolling Stones later, or some of them.
Yeah, we are going to see some, in a moment. But first, let's finish with Mick Jagger here. So they do Miss You. they do a song. Then Tina Turner comes out. They do the song "State of Shock," which was a song originally recorded by the Jacksons and Mick Jagger.
Yeah.
And released off of one of their albums. There are so many songs that I think Mick Jagger and Tina Turner could have done together. I don't know why that one, but that's what they did. And that leads into just them singing. Basically, that leads into It's Only Rock and Roll, but I like it. Although all they do is sing the chorus over and over again.
Yeah.
No one sings any of the verses in this particular performance. That's all they do.
And there was a costume change.
Yeah. What was up with this? So
and there was something going on with Mick's pants during this whole thing.
Well, he takes off his shirt at one point. He's wearing these, like, I forget what kind of pants they are, but
they were like baggy.
Yeah, and
cottony kind of thing.
Clothes tend to look baggy on Mick anyways, all the time. But he takes off he's wearing a blue t-shirt. He takes off the t-shirt, and I'm looking at him thinking, Mick, you can afford to eat pasta once in a while. It's not going to hurt you. Trust me. Just eat some pasta.
And visit the tanning bed, please.
Or maybe a Cinnabon once in a while. But yeah, something happens with his pants, and he goes off stage. And a camera later.
He kept singing.
He kept singing, but the camera goes off stage at one point, and we shows him where he is. They're trying to get him changed into like a coat. A yellow coat. He walks back on stage. He's got different pants on.
Yeah, so evidently it wasn't just his coat that was changing. His pants were changed too.
Yeah, it's like, why? Why are you doing a costume change in the middle of this number? What point does it serve? I was like, what?
Maybe that's the original wardrobe malfunction that happened at Live Aid.
Well, but then something else happens.
That was an intentional thing.
Where afterwards, when he comes back on stage, he kind of like takes off some of Tina Turner's outfit. But you're right, that did look intentional.
Because he had a hard time finding the little catch to
pull it off.
To pull it off.
Yeah, and she's just sort of laughing about it. Obviously, because he was having trouble with it. But but I don't know why Mick had to change clothes during this song. What the heck? Something happened with his pants, I guess. Something must happen.
They were kind of trying to fall off.
It looked like that.
Once again, but eat some food.
Yeah, eat some food, Mick. Have a cheeseburger once in a while. Anyways,
you can afford it.
Yeah. But that was just a weird thing. That was a really weird thing that he went off stage for a while. She went off stage for a while too. I have no idea why. She didn't change clothes or nothing, but it was kind of weird. But it was a performance. It was a good, solid performance. I have no real interest in Mick's solo stuff, but it was a good, solid performance. It was fun.
It was a novelty thing for me, and
then we finally have Bob Dylan, introduced by Jack Nicholson. They were supposed to do they did 3 songs, but in this particular shortened version, all we get is a performance of "Blowing in the Wind," and that's it.
Yeah, and it was
So it's well known,
interesting,
just like with the Led Zeppelin performance, that this particular performance was beset with technical difficulties, problems. According to Ron Wood, Bob Dylan, right at the very beginning, broke a guitar string, which, if you know anything about guitars, it can set the whole guitar out of tune.
Yeah.
And it can be disastrous when a string breaks like that. So apparently, and again, according to Ron Wood, Bob Dylan did not have a roadie that day. So Ron Wood, I guess, according to him, I didn't see this in the video, but he very quickly gave him his guitar to Dylan.
And got another guitar from backstage.
Ron Wood was handed a guitar from backstage that was just a really cheap, awful guitar that was way out of tune. And he said he just started playing just on the ones, like his low E string, sliding it around. Like maybe like a bass guitar even. But I think there were also monitor problems.
Yeah, they were all kind of, both Ron Wood and Keith Richards were kind of like hunching over the guitar trying to hear it.
Yeah, trying to hear the guitar, make sure they were in tune. It's terrible when you can't hear yourself, and I've been there. I know that experience. And
in a performance like that, it's kind of, there's not a lot you can do.
Yeah, not a lot you can do.
But
try to get through it.
To get through it.
Yeah.
And
which is what they both did. I know that Keith Richards talked about it in his book, Life. But at the end of the day, he said, I still, though, it's like Ronnie and I, at the end of the day, we're both like, we got to play on stage with Bob Dylan.
Yeah.
You know, they were thrilled for that reason that they got to be on stage with Bob Dylan because they both really idolize him. And, but yeah, we only got to see the one track. We didn't get to see anything else. It's a shame. Again, we're going to look to see if we can find these whole performances elsewhere and maybe talk about them at some later time. This, of course, is then followed by USA for Africa, We Are the World. You know, not everybody who was on that record was there that day. A lot of people were not there. Michael Jackson wasn't there. Bruce Springsteen wasn't there. So there were other artists, you know, filling in. It's funny, at the beginning of at the end of the Wembley performance, when they did Do They Know It's Christmas, Bob Geldof, not Bob Dylan, but Bob Geldof went out on stage and said this might be a huge cock-up, but if we're going to do it, but we might as well do it in front of millions of people. And they did a pretty serviceable job of doing, you know, doing Do They Know It's Christmas? And because, you know, it's a song that everybody performed once and never performed again. And then there's a lot of people there that have never performed it and have lyric sheets, and they're just trying to follow each other and get through the song.
But they were having a good time with it, and that's all that matters, really.
And I think this was a bigger cock-up.
Oh, definitely.
Definitely, if you watched it, it's like, and yet it was still really fun to watch. It was really good. A lot of people, you know, getting on the mic. Like you said, roadies, people from backstage just coming on stage and joining in for the hell of it. Yeah. Why not? There was this one big guy standing next to Dionne Warwick.
And they had their arms around each other, and they were just singing away.
And he's wearing like a yellow hat and a yellow work shirt.
Yeah.
And I thought, was he a security guy? Or he's big enough to be a security guy.
Yeah. What's his deal, Roadie?
It's like I was watching this, and I was saying to you, you know, meanwhile, Dionne Warwick is saying, who's this guy next to me? He's really big. I don't want to say anything.
Well, he's handsome. I'm not going to let him go.
Yeah, he's handsome. I'll stand next to him. Yeah, what the heck? But yeah, I got the feeling he was a security guy. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Maybe he was a record producer for all I know. But I just, you know, just a lot of people are there just singing along and having a good time. And it was a lot of fun. It was much more of a cock-up than the Do They Know It's Christmas performance.
But my favorite was Patti LaBelle.
Oh yeah, that's right.
She didn't know the words. She didn't know the
lyrics at all.
But she jumped in there and she just wailed.
I know. She was incredible, actually. That was the best part of it. That was better than her whole performance earlier, in my opinion.
It was.
She just wailed. She was emotional. It was really powerful and strong. And she didn't know a single word. She was just like, "Wah!" Just like going crazy.
And one of the best things was as she turned away, there was a look that passed between her and Graham Nash.
Yes.
And a smile.
Yeah.
And he's like, I know what you did.
Yeah, I know what you just did, darling. Good job, though. You pulled it off. Anyways, though, but yeah, it was really fun. It was far from perfect, but it was really fun to watch.
Yeah.
Really fun to watch.
And, you know, musicians are people too.
Yes, they are people too.
They can screw up songs just like the rest of us.
It's all in the recovery. It's all in the recovery. That's what I always say. It's all in the recovery. You know, when you mess up songs. I've done it plenty of times. It's all in the recovery. Yeah, so that's Live Aid. That was the last.
There is an after party video.
There's an after party video. Maybe we'll get around to that. But I think what we do want to do is look to see where the other performances are, see if we can find them. But mostly, I do want to do a video discussing what happened with Led Zeppelin that day in detail.
Yeah.
What happened, what went wrong. There were things I've noticed about it. I can't get into all of it. But I mean, I remember just even right when they were first starting their first number, I remember like something happened and a microphone got tripped down, got knocked over,
and that was the beginning of the end.
It was like
there.
it was like that set the whole stage for the whole performance. Just a lot of stuff happened. Robert Plant has mentioned that Page's guitar was out of tune. I also noticed the way Page was playing Whole Lotta Love was different from how he played it on the record. But like I said, that's a whole another can of worms that that will I want to discuss at some point in a future video. But there we go, Live Aid. Anything else you want to say before we say goodbye?
You know, we're lucky to have these videos.
Yeah.
Even though it's a little frustrating that we didn't get to see all the performers from that day.
And that some of them were cut. Yeah.
And
Or that they had, I should say, that some of their, even the performers we did see, some of their songs were cut. Let us know what you think. Leave a comment. Hope you enjoyed this series. And we've got a new series that's already, I think by the time you see this, the first episode may have already aired. Miyazaki Mondays, where we are discussing the films of Hayao Miyazaki, the films that he has directed on this
in
channel.
Anticipation of our
every
Japan
Monday.
trip.
Yes. Everybody, thank you so much for sticking around. We're going to have a playlist of all these videos so that if you want to check out a playlist, check out the episodes you missed, whatever, rewatch, whatever, share it with friends. As always, if you like these videos, be sure to give it a like. And thank you, patron supporters, for all that you do. And we will...
You are fierce and mighty.
Yes. You'll probably see some links for some other videos very soon that I've created that I think you might enjoy. Please check them out. And thank you so much. And we'll see you all in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.